Welcome to Breaking News to Trading Moves. Today, we're looking at the fallout, really, from that recent executive action, the one involving tariffs on imported wood products. Yeah, so our plan is to walk through what these new duties actually mean, and maybe more importantly, try to identify which companies might, get a boost from this and which ones might be facing some new cost headaches. This is all based on analysis that came out after the announcement.
Right. And this action, it's pretty targeted. It uses Section 232 authority.
Yeah.
And it's aimed specifically at imported timber, cabinets, vanities, and also some upholstered furniture.
Hmm.
So not everything, but key areas.
Okay, let's get into the specifics of the duties themselves, because I understand they aren't all the same rate, and that seems key. What did the administration actually set up here?
Well, there are basically two main levels. The first is for the raw material, so lumber imports. That's facing a 10% tariff.
10% on lumber. Okay.
Yep.
And the second level, that hits more finished goods.
Exactly. And it's a bigger number, 25%.
Yeah.
That applies to things like wooden cabinets, vanities, and that upholstered furniture we mentioned.
25%. Wow. Okay, so that gap, 10 versus 25, that's really the main thing driving the different impacts we're going to talk about.
That's the core mechanic, yes. It creates different pressures depending on what you're importing or competing against.
Makes sense. And timeline-wise, when did this actually start?
The duties kicked in October 14th, so they're active now. But something else to keep in mind for you listening is what might happen next. The analysis we saw mentioned the possibility, maybe even probability, of rates going up even higher from January 1st, 2026.
Ah, okay. So there's a potential future increase baked in, too. That adds another layer of complexity for businesses planning ahead.
Definitely. It affects how companies think about sourcing and contracts right now. How changes to import costs can quickly alter the playing field for U.S. companies.
Absolutely. Well, let's start with who comes out ahead here, according to the analysis, the domestic winners. First up, U.S. timber and wood manufacturing.
Yeah, that's the most direct one, especially with the 10% tariff on imported lumber. Basically, it makes imported lumber more expensive. So domestic timber growers and sawmills, they potentially see more demand. It might give them a bit more room on pricing, maybe helps them run their mills at higher capacity.
Okay, that makes sense. And were there specific companies flagged in this area?
Yeah, the analysis mentioned Weyerhaeuser, that's ticker WY, huge timberland owner, operates as a REIT, and also PotlatchDeltic, ticker PCH. They're also big in timberland management and wood products, mainly in the South and West.
Got it. WY and PCH. Okay, moving on from raw timber. What about companies making wood building products like panels, OSB, that sort of thing?
Right, so oriented strand board, OSB, and engineered wood. This goes back to that cost difference again. These products are crucial for home construction and remodeling. If imported alternatives, or even just imported raw lumber driving up competitor costs, become more expensive, then domestic producers of OSB and engineered wood, who might rely more on domestic timber, they gain an advantage. Better pricing environment for them, potentially more market share.
So companies that make those essential building components could benefit. Who was mentioned there?
Louisiana-Pacific, ticker LPX. They're a major player in engineered wood siding and OSB, and also builders FirstSource, ticker BLEDR. Now, they're more of a distributor, but a huge one for building materials, so they benefit from stable or advantageous domestic supply chains.
LPX and BLDR. Okay, now what about the finished goods? That 25% tariff seems like it would offer more protection.
Oh, absolutely. That's where you see the biggest potential advantage for domestic firms. We're talking U.S. cabinet makers, office furniture companies. That 25% duty on imports like cabinets and upholstered furniture is a pretty substantial barrier for overseas competitors.
Yeah, I mean, absorbing a 25% cost increase overnight is tough for any import-reliant business model. It gives the domestic guys a lot of breathing room.
It really does. We sometimes call it a pricing umbrella. The cost of the imported good goes up significantly, so the domestic company can either, raise their own prices a bit and improve margins, or keep prices steady and potentially grab a lot more business from importers who now look way more expensive. Either way, it helps their competitive stance.
And the companies highlighted in this space.
Master brand, ticker MBC. They're one of the biggest names in kitchen and bath cabinets in North America. And Steelcase, ticker SSES. They focus more on the office, furniture, side chairs, desks, partitions, that kind of thing. Both compete with imports affected by that 25% rate.
MBC and SCS. Okay, so that covers the potential beneficiaries. But like you said, these things usually cut both ways. Let's flip it around now and talk about the sectors that might face headwinds, cost pressures because of these tariffs.
Right. And the first group that often comes up in these situations is home builders. Their business model relies heavily on predictable costs for materials and lumber. Well, lumber is a really big one for them.
Yeah, even if the tariff is only 10% on the raw lumber, that tends to push up the price for all lumber, domestic included, right, as demand shifts.
Exactly. So for a home builder, that increased lumber cost goes straight to their bottom line. It can squeeze their gross margins, especially if they've already priced out homes based on older, lower cost assumptions.
And it might affect their building plans, too, maybe slow things down.
It could. If costs become volatile or jump unexpectedly, builders might get more cautious. Maybe pause in projects, slow the pace of new starts until they get a clearer picture of where costs will settle. It introduces friction.
Which builders were pointed out as facing this pressure?
The analysis mentioned the big ones like D.R. Horton, ticker DHI, and Lennar, ticker LEN. They operate on a large scale, so supply chain costs are critical for them.
DHI and LEN. Okay, what about retailers, particularly the big home improvement stores? They sell both lumber and finished goods like cabinets.
Yeah, they're kind of caught in the middle, aren't they? It's tricky for them. They've got lumber aisles where costs might be going up due to the 10% tariffs effects. And then they've got kitchen and bath sections with cabinets and vanities potentially impacted by that higher 25% tariff if they rely on imported stock.
So they face rising costs on multiple fronts. What does that mean for them commercially?
Well, they have a tough choice. Do they pass those higher costs directly on to consumers? That could mean higher prices on lumber, on a new vanity, maybe discouraging some DIY projects or bigger renovations.
Or do they try to absorb some of the costs to stay competitive?
Right. If they absorb it, then their own profit margins take a hit. It definitely makes it harder for them to run promotions or manage pricing flexibly.
The companies named here are the ones you'd expect, I guess.
Yes, Home Depot, ticker HD, and Lowe's, ticker LOW. These tariffs directly impact core product categories for both of them.
HD and LOW. Okay, one more category facing challenges. Furniture and home goods retailers, especially those who source a lot internationally.
This is where that 25% tariff on finished goods like upholstered furniture and cabinets really bites hard. For retailers heavily reliant on imports from, say, Asia or Mexico for these items, their cost of goods just went up significantly. We talked about the landed cost, everything it takes to get that product here.
And that just jumped by potentially 25% for those specific goods.
Precisely. Companies that have built their whole model around efficient global sourcing for furniture, cabinets, vanities,
Wow.
suddenly that strategy looks a lot more expensive.
They've probably spent years optimizing those supply chains.
Exactly. And now, overnight, the math changes. They're facing a tough decision. Absorb the cost, which hurts profits badly, raise prices significantly, which could kill demand, or scramble to find alternative, maybe domestic suppliers, which isn't easy or quick.
Which retailers were specifically mentioned as being in this situation?
Williams-Sonoma, ticker WSM. They sell a lot of higher-end furniture and home goods, often sourced globally. And Wayfair, ticker W. Their online model depends heavily on a vast network of suppliers, many of them overseas, for furniture and other home items. That 25% tariff hits right at the core of that model for certain categories.
WSM and W. Okay, so wrapping this up, it seems pretty clear this single action sets up a real tension in the market. You've got domestic producers of wood and wood products getting a potential leg up from the tariffs, while the companies that use those materials, like builders, or the ones that sell them, like retailers, are facing higher costs.
That's the immediate effect, yes. And that tension will drive business decisions. Maybe a final thought for you to consider is that January 2026 date we mentioned earlier. If there's a real chance tariffs could go even higher then, how does that influence decisions now? How do builders budget? How do retailers manage inventory or negotiate with suppliers for the next year or two? It adds a layer of strategic complexity.
Definitely something to think about. Okay, just a reminder for everyone listening, this discussion has been for informational purposes only. It's not financial advice, and it's certainly not a recommendation to buy or sell any specific stock. This report reflects purely the opinion of the author of the original content reviewed. Thanks for tuning in.